Greetings, true believers, and welcome to another episode of Total Geek Live. I'm Guy, and with us is Kaiser, B, and Danny.
Excelsior!
And today we're gonna...
I didn't. Go on, I'm sorry. Keep going.
All right, today for the mailbag, we're going to be talking about Spider-Man Homecoming, which came out this weekend, last Friday. So we've got a lot to say about that. Does anyone want to start, or should I lead in on this one?
Give it to you, Guy.
Go lead it in, man.
All right. So, well, Spider-Man is easily my favorite superhero from Marvel. I'm, spent my whole life basically loving Spider-Man, and fortunately, a couple years back, I actually got to play Spider-Man for a promotional event with Marvel Comics. And
Really?
yeah, life goal made. I was promoting Spider-Man 3 at the time, and Marvel Characters contacted me, and I had the build and the attitude, and here I am.
So you're all emo and had your hair all in your eye, and we're like,
no, it was real
the
Spider-Man.
stores?
They used real Spider-Man.
Okay.
So that was a fun event. It was fun, having fun, making all the kids' days and everything like that. So it was pretty
Did they
cool.
provide you the costume?
They did, but the funny thing is, it's like the costume they provided me, I have my own costume just like that. The only difference, it's true. I went out and bought a deluxe Spider-Man costume for Comic-Con some years ago, and the only difference between theirs and mine, my hood comes off like the comic version. Their version is actually attached to the suit itself, which is a great thing because two particularly rowdy kids tried to unmask me during the presentation, which I guess it probably wouldn't have been too bad since I look so much like Peter Parker as it is. So I guess it wouldn't have been too terribly bad. But yeah, Marvel really thought ahead on that one because
I've apologized for that over and over again. I'm sorry I tried to pull off your mask, Guy.
yeah, two adorable little cherubs tried to unmask me during the event, so that was fun. But as I said, we're going to be talking about Spider-Man Homecoming. This is the sixth movie and third reboot and third Spider-Man actor, and this has all been since 2002. So this has been a saga within itself.
Yes, indeed.
There's a lot good going with it. I would have to say, for my part, Spidey has finally found his place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yes.
Totally agreed.
Whatever issues Disney, Marvel has, because Sony owns Spider-Man, and Fox, as we've discussed in the past, still own X-Men and Fantastic Four. But Sony and Marvel decided to play nice and share Spider-Man, which was to everyone's benefit. And the fans are lucky for it because I honestly think he's the most pure version of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Everyone had their own little, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield each had their own little elements and things. But I think this version, Tom Holland, was the most pure version where it actually felt really like him. And so that, it was exciting, and it was probably the most light and fun movie, and I think he was probably most true to character. The other thing about it, Michael Keaton, who decided to, and I'm glad he did. He decided to reprise his Birdman role.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm glad he went back to Birdman.
Went there.
But he also, this is not his first comic book spin, as he was known in the late '80s, early '90s as the Batman of the time.
No.
And he was a great villain. He really made the film, I think.
He's
Absolutely.
probably one of the strongest MCU villains we've seen.
Oh,
I think
absolutely.
He's great, but I think Michael Keaton just turned it out.
Right.
And not
And
just, go ahead, Danny.
No, I was just going to say, this is the most real villain that the Marvel Universe has given us because he's an everyday Joe. He was just so focused on putting the food on the table, not only for his family, but for all of his employees as well. And you really get to get deep into his character and And I just was thinking, man, there's so many people that if they were in his shoes, they would probably go and do the same things that he did as a character. And it just, man, it was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't a bad guy at all when he started. I mean, his motivations were real, and his character was fleshed out to have some sympathy for him. But he just got screwed at the beginning. And that's the best way. Tony Stark, for all his best intentions and just doing the job and everything, had his own team, and it just put the average working guy out of a job, and he took that pretty personal. So,
well, and it actually goes in with kind of what things are going on today in our society. It's rich billionaire guy working with the government and stealing the contract and all this potential income and all that from the average day Joe. And I think that speaks a lot to, it spoke to me.
Yeah.
It speaks to a lot of just the average American out there.
Yeah.
And a lot of this centered around the Battle of New York, which in shows such as Daredevil, Luke Cage, and etc. is referred to as the incident, where the Avengers came together to fight the Chitauri, and that's when they first did their first major Battle of New York, and everything set up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe seems very hinged around this one event, especially the after effects. And this was another catalyst for that, because you still see Stark Tower being rebuilt, and then it kind of does that whole thing where it talks about when they eventually locate. There's stuff going on in the background of Spider-Man where in all respects it's very much its own film, but again, Marvel Cinematic Universe has done this great job where everything feels like it fits. They really fleshed out this real living, breathing world.
As long as you don't look too closely and start adding up timelines.
There were a few questionable things on that, and
don't math for us, guys.
Yeah. We're not supposed to do math.
Yeah, don't math this, but there's some timelines versus the incident versus modern time, which everything's supposed to be sent on. It's all the Marvel movies are supposed to be done in real time, like they're going along with us right now, and some numbers don't add up in one place, and you're like, hey, and then it's like, ooh, Spider-Man, and then you kind of forget about it for a second.
I never even went, oh, hey, this one, okay, 8 years later.
Yeah.
That's how I was.
I think we're starting to get into a little bit of details here. Do we want to switch over to the spoiler version, or do we want to kind of give an overview?
Come on, best Spider-Man ever. Let's go, spoilers.
Better than the Guy Chapman Spider-Man?
Oh, I don't know.
Is there anything better?
Okay.
Well, probably Tom Holland's pretty good, so.
We are in the spoiler territory now.
But I did want to also touch on one other thing. Spider-Man was a great... Spider-Man was a great superhero movie. And one of the things I've constantly wondered about, because right now everything is superhero movies. If it's not superhero movies, it's remakes and reboots, and Spider-Man's a little bit of everything right now.
It's a reboot of a superhero movie.
It's what they make a version of Spider-Man that now fits somewhere within the Marvel Cinematic Universe because the studios decided to play nice. That's the best definition of that. There's a part of me that feels like I should be getting comic book movie fatigue. Like there's so many of these comic book movies that come out now, but the thing is, especially with Marvel Cinematic Universe, they do such a great job fitting this in and making this big story, and everyone interacts with each other, and it's really going to ramp up next year. But they keep making good movies that have, even if they're not as good as some others, but all have been consistently good on some level.
Mm-hmm.
And not only is it a good superhero movie, it's a good high school movie. I mean, this is a fun teenage coming of age. This is what life in high school is like. I mean, granted, we didn't have drones and some of the other things back during our time, but it felt like a high school movie. And in fact, we are in spoilers, yes?
Yes, we are in spoilers.
They go back and they reference easily one of the best 80s teen high school movies of the time. And it's like, that was another thing. It's like, this seems very familiar. And then they cut to that one scene where they show that particular movie, and it's like mind blown. I'm like laughing because it's just awesome.
Which movie? I mean, we're in spoilers.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yes.
Bueller.
Yeah. Parker.
Yeah, it's when they got into that, it's like, it really did kind of feel like one of those old 80s teen movies. I mean, even the girl, Michelle, she seemed like the misfit from the Breakfast Club. And, you know, they had all their,
the movie.
Yeah, the Ali Sheedy. And, I mean, they had all their tropes, but they were realistic teenage kids that, you know, some were jerks, some were likable, some were geeky, but they all seemed real. And I think that kind of had a nice grounding because you had two movies in this thing, but both meshed very well, and again, pretty much covered the essence that what Spider-Man really is.
Well, that's probably why we're, at least we, as in us, the geeks, are probably the most part, the whole audience is not really getting the superhero fatigue as bad as you think we would, given so many hero movies, because they're genre movies that also happen to be superhero movies. At least definitely in the MCU, you know.
Yeah.
The heist movie and the political thriller, you know, with Ant-Man and Winter Soldier, and then this is the high school drama. And only really the Avengers have been the we're good versus evil, you know, superhero.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, you know, it's like
smart. It's very smart for them to kind of counteract and kind of get ahead of the superhero fatigue by also adding another layer of depth by, okay, this is our heist movie, this is our magic movie, this is our political movie, you know.
Thor Ragnarok's going to be like the buddy cop movie in space kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sounds like it might be, but in space. Yeah.
But you're right, it's worked really well. And one of the things that you were talking about, as it's referencing all these 80s films, is the director, John Watts, made all the main characters, the cast, watch John Hughes films.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome.
One of that,
awesome.
That kind of feel of the 80s John Hughes movies, and I think he successfully pulled that off. And I thought that was a great little touch to kind of make it, I don't know about more relatable, but I think just more cohesive and
right. They all got the tone he was going for.
But
they understood.
Those films work for a specific reason, and he recaptured a little bit of that magic in here within a superhero, you know, setting.
It felt very familiar and comfortable.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, you know, for us growing up with the John Hughes movies, the film, because it followed that genre, it felt comfortable for us. But these teenagers were modern day teenagers.
Yeah.
They were doing the YouTube things. They were doing the selfie things, the drone things, all of these kind of things that kids today do, so that, you know, this generation that's watching this can relate to that too. I mean, like, oh yeah, I totally do that. Or yeah, a party is, you know, that's what a high school party is like now.
Right.
And you know, those types of different kinds of things.
Speaking of high school parties, I want to touch on the party scene in this one.
Penis Parker.
Yeah. Penis Parker, that was funny. So the Flash talk, actually, it's tangents into like so many thoughts on the movie, but one, I was actually apprehensive going into this movie. I think leading up to it, they showcased Iron Man way too much, and I just felt like they just gonna make this Iron Man Jr.
Right.
You know, and I really had that fear. But then after the movie was over, I was like, well, I think it was done well. I was happy not to see Oscorp anywhere in the movie. To have Tony replace kind of the Osborn relationship that you saw in like the Raimi movies. And having that kind of role model scientist figure was so refreshing. And what I originally thought was going to be kind of damning for the movie, to me personally, just turned out to just make it all the much better. So, as we talk about, so one of the things was when they cast Flash, as I feel horrible. I had looked up the actor's name earlier. I just watched a movie with him and
Tony Valori.
Okay, him and Drake, not Drake, Josh from Drake and Josh. Josh
Bell or Josh something.
I'm blanking out.
Okay,
on
but
names
the
here.
guy
Anyway,
from Drake and Josh.
Yeah, I just watched a movie with them together, literally like the night before, and then I was like, oh hey, I know this guy, and I was like, but I was apprehensive because like, not that I have anything against changing multiracial casting. I just didn't want them to lose who the character of Flash Thompson was.
Right.
Yeah.
And that worry was out the window because he was a complete dick to Peter.
Yep.
It became more or less the jock nerd dynamic and more the rich kid, poor kid bullying dynamic.
Yeah.
Right.
Which speaks to the whole level of the Vulture and his motivations. I mean, it's a very cohesive thematically of the power struggle of the haves and have-nots.
I thought what was interesting about that whole, partially the casting of non-traditional casting, but on top of that, you have Marvel is trying something new, and that's great. They tried something new with Aunt May. They tried something new with the Tony Peter relationship. They tried something new with all the teenage actors that were not the white counterparts that you see in the comics. And I thought that was great because, okay, now we have a Flash Thompson that isn't the dumb jock. He's a smart ass and a jerk to him, and so he still keeps that element of Flash Thompson.
Yep.
And then you have Liz Allen, who's a pretty white girl in the comics, and you have her as the pretty girl still, and it works.
Yeah.
Not so much about her father being Vulture, which I wasn't. Spoilers.
Yeah, we're in spoilers, so that's fine.
I was gonna say, did any of you see that coming, or had it ruined for you?
It's gonna be Michelle.
No, but it's just. I was like, of course. Okay, now that's why that's the love interest in this flippin' movie. I was wondering why we're not getting either Gwen Stacy or MJ right off the bat.
Yeah.
But we've seen those before, so it also worked on they're not rehashing.
Yeah, right. They cleared the roster of the love interest and the villains.
Yeah.
Because Vulture's new. And so that was one thing I didn't quite understand. So she was Liz Allen, yes?
Yes.
But her father's Adrian Toomes, so how does that...
Don't look too closely at the details, I think they're trying to do.
8 years, last names. That's why I was like, so... Yeah, because I was like, it has to be Toomes, because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Liz Allen Toomes?
Even that doesn't make sense. But does she get married?
She could be adopted?
Well,
yeah, I thought maybe... I thought maybe
Mama
like
likes her white chocolate. So she could have
maybe there's like a half sibling kind of thing, or I don't know.
They didn't explain that, and I don't know if that would have been too much exposition, but at the same time, it's like, how do you justify the two last names not being the same? I can buy a lot of things, but the two last names, because they're not even related.
I think they were keeping it separate for spoilers, so that people would go into Liz Allen, Adrian Toomes, no.
Right.
There's no connection.
Liz Allen proper in the film up until that point? They called her Liz.
They only called her Liz in the film, but in the credits, she's Liz Allen.
Yeah,
so like again, people searching IMDb, it's like, well, they could have just wrote her as Liz.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it's only referred to as Liz in the film, and that's why I was like, what are you doing? And it's like, I don't know, that part I did struggle with, because it just doesn't make sense, and even talking to you guys right now, it still does not make sense.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, and
at least they didn't explain it. I mean, like I said, it could be through marriage. It could, there's explanations that would make it work. They just didn't cover it, or it got cut.
Yeah, it's on the floor.
Yeah. Maybe she was divorced. They're both divorced or something, and she already had a kid or something. I don't know. I mean, that's about the only logical thing, and maybe they'll explain it away at some post whatever. But yeah, for the movie for right now, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Right. But for me, I was okay with it. It worked. We got a great scene of. I really liked when she went into the homecoming and he asked, Peter stay behind, and they had that
Father.
conversation in the car where you could cut with a knife the tension
That was
in the
intense.
air. It
That
was
driving scene.
really, really intense.
Yeah.
A great scene. That's one of my top 5 scenes from the movie.
The second Adrian Toomes opened that door, and it was like, I was like, oh, and then I just sat there, and it's like it just kept building. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
you see both of them piecing it together. I mean, Peter obviously.
Peter already knew.
Yeah, Peter was
He was
just
like, he
miserable during that, and then during the drive, you could just see Toomes piecing it all together, and you're
Piece
just
it
like,
all together. Yep.
oh, yeah. So it was
Yeah.
super intense, and he's like, yeah, can I stay Minuteman talk? And I was like, oh crap.
Yeah. My favorite scene, I think, would be Spidey in the car, driving.
Yeah. He
Oh,
can't drive.
when he took Flash's car.
Yeah. And I was like, you don't see it. Again, Marvel trying something new. That was
Right.
really interesting and fun, and such a, fun scene to see.
Right.
Well,
Spider-Man
in the
and
comics,
someone
Peter
who's-
can't drive.
Yeah.
He can never drive. And I mean, it's like, he had that ill-fated Spider-Mobile for a while
The
there, but
buggy.
yeah, it's like Peter doesn't drive.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a nice reference. And the same when he got buried under the rubble, and they did that very iconic scene where he lifted everything up, because this is like everything's on him and
Yeah.
stakes raised.
Absolutely.
Yeah, again, that's why I go back to my original statement. This is the most pure Spider-Man that they put out.
Absolutely.
Now,
He's fun, and he's funny, and he carries the weight of the world on his shoulders, and he's just, as I said, the others were good, and I liked the first Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2, but this one had the element. I felt Tobey Maguire's performance was too dry. He lacked the humor element. He just did. He threw out a quip here and there, but that's not Spider-Man. Spider-Man's constantly joking. That's like his whole thing, and I felt they captured what Tobey Maguire's performance lacked, and also Andrew Garfield, who I think got it better, but still missing
Just
something.
wasn't enough, right?
So,
Well, I
as a Spider-Man fan, I was pleased.
For Andrew Garfield, it was him and Gwen Stacy. That was the only reason those films were worth it, just to see the two of them together.
Mhm.
Right.
Their chemistry. But as far as this film, I thought what was interesting is the connections from the comics to the characters. When you have the two people who play the Shocker, one is the familiar Herman, who's played by Bokeem, but the other one who plays him before is someone that you had to dig around in the Marvel comics to find who it is. He actually appears in the Spider-Man series, TV series.
Okay.
Animated.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
He wasn't even
He had a
acting
beard.
himself. Yeah, but in the film he did.
Yeah.
But in the cartoon, he had a big hat. He was like this oil tycoon or oil man type of character who ends up becoming the first Shocker in that universe.
Right.
I loved
and other things.
I loved how, speaking of the Shocker, just if the small touches in costuming, the jacket had,
quilted jacket.
The yellow
it was
quilted
yellow,
jacket.
yeah, and it's like
It was perfect. It was subtle and just made it. The villains were so much more.
The Vulture in his bomber jacket was kind of a bit of just a
ruffled
little bit,
collar.
a little
Yeah,
exaggerated.
Absolutely
hat.
loved that.
The helmet was amazing. It was great. Those
Yeah.
piercing eyes.
Yeah.
And then you have the Tinkerer in the film too.
Right.
Great,
He did have the
buddy.
Tinkerer.
making all the new toys and the new guns and weapons. So they had some really great, down to earth, real. What would it really look like in this type of junkyard piecing together leftover, weapon debris? So it was really smart and really interesting way to pull that together.
Some real nice little tiny callbacks.
Right, and then you also have Donald Glover, who in the film plays Aaron. And
Prowler.
Yeah, he was doing a deal. When we first see him is that he's by the van where one of the Shockers is showing him all the new gear and all that kind of stuff, and then that's when Spidey kind of stops that whole mess.
Yeah.
And then later on we see him again where Spidey goes and asks him for some information, for a little bit of help and all that.
An interrogation mode.
Yeah, interrogation
Thanks,
mode.
Karen.
Yes.
Oh, we
Wonderful.
gotta talk about that too. But yeah, so Donald Glover has an interesting tie. His character has an interesting tie to the comics, where in which his character is the uncle of the Ultimate Spider-Man, Miles Morales.
Right.
And
that
everybody always wanted Donald Glover to
Right.
play him.
Right. Yeah, he even bandied for it for
Yeah.
a while too. But this does give a confirmation that Miles Morales is in the MCU.
I got a nephew that lives in Queens.
Yeah. So I think that's really awesome and fun.
Oh, if you want to talk about fun throwbacks, that one scene at the Washington Monument where Spider-Man saves the day and like the Karen, his AI and his suit, once he like achieved maximum, capacity from the suit.
Yeah.
That one scene where he's hanging upside down and the suit says, "Now is the time to kiss her," and
Right.
it's like again the upside
Callback.
down. That's a callback to the first film, which that famous scene from that, which I thought was a nice little nod.
Yeah. Well, and interestingly enough, the voice of Karen is actually the wife of Paul Bettany, who voiced Jarvis
Yeah.
throughout Iron Man and the first Avengers film. And
Oh, nice.
so it's a
Jennifer-
nice little, relationship. Like, how'd you get this role?
Right.
Very,
well.
very nice.
Well, that's kind of cool. And this is actually her second Marvel film since she was in the Hulk.
Yeah, she was Jennifer Connelly. She was Thunderbolt Ross's daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Hulk.
And
Yeah.
Lee's
That's
Hulk.
non-MCU since the Hulk is a
Well,
whole
yeah,
other
that's
thing,
true.
too.
But it is still tied into it. They do reference.
It does. It's more part of that Marvel film thing, but yeah, I totally. So should we talk about the beginning scene and the ending scene?
All right, you're gonna have to the very, very beginning scene.
When the credits start rolling and you hear a certain
Yes.
theme song being played in full orchestra.
Yes, it was absolutely wonderful. It was what I wanted
Yeah.
for an opening for this film.
I
It
was
set the tone
sold.
immediately.
Perfect.
It's set.
Yeah, I was
Sold
totally
at
sold.
that point.
Yeah.
I had a big shit-eating grin on my face, just sitting there like a little kid, like, oh, I'm about to see Spider-Man. Yeah,
I can't
This is
believe they
great.
played the 1960s Spider-Man theme. And
And see-
I was kind of singing along with it. I was just like,
It was
what?
perfect.
This is really happening?
Oh, there were people around me that were singing along with it. It was greatness.
Nice.
And Raimi always played with it by throwing it in like a character in a scene,
Right.
like
Like in
the
the
Cell phone.
the
something.
lady on the violin and the guy in the subway playing.
Right.
But
we
bringing
never
it
had
back-
it like this.
yeah, because like I'm huge on thematic scoring for superhero
Mhm.
movies, and it's kind of gone by the wayside for a while. I mean, when you think Batman, whose score do you think of? You think Elfman's.
Elfman's, yeah.
You
Yeah, the
know,
Ultimates.
that's the Batman.
Yeah.
When you think Superman, you think John
John
Williams.
Williams.
We talked about this in the Wonder Woman review. The Wonder Woman was the first one that kind of brought back now that you know what it is the second you hear it.
Yeah.
Right.
And bringing full circle that Spider-Man theme as the theme score, perfect. Nailed it.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Sold. Here's my money. Give me,
And also not in a way that's overwhelming or obnoxious or overdone. It was light.
Yeah.
It was,
yeah.
it just set the tone. Really, it made this is a fun film. This is fun. This is where it's coming from, which is
It was a
awesome.
treat for the fans. I mean, basically,
Yeah.
If you're a Spider-Man fan, here's a little something for you. You know what this is. Nod, wink. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then of course the ending, which that last line. As I said, I was sold from the second the movie started, and I went through all the way through, and then the very last line of that film when, again, should we just go ahead and say what happened at the end?
Yeah, I mean, we're in full spoiler.
We're in
territory.
spoilers.
As I
So
said,
it's
it's like I
fine.
know we're spoilers, but I don't want to just give the whole synopsis away.
If
whatever.
they're watching at this point and they haven't seen the movie yet,
Okay,
they
fair enough.
know.
Fair enough.
Right.
Um,
Right.
That whole
It's on
scene Spider-Man goes through his trials, and I did feel that was a setup because, again, it's like the Avengers are getting their plane stolen, and none of them intercept this. This isn't a big deal for them. Everyone stands back. I kind of thought that really suspicious, and then Peter just asked, am I being tested? And I thought it was about that one moment, and I think that was a much larger test than what, was originally led to believe. And then you get to this thing where he could have become an Avenger and had this spider armor suit and everything else, and he declines because he wants to be just a simple hero on the street sort of thing. And again, typical Spider-Man, because he was out fighting supervillains, but he's also getting cats out of trees and things like that.
And eating churros.
Yeah.
So you have this scene where he gets his suit back because he gets it taken away, and then he just casually kind of puts it on. He's having his big epic moment, and while he's basking in his personal victory, his aunt discovers him. And he
left the door open.
Yeah, he leaves the door wide open, and she starts to belt out an expletive, and then it cuts to credit.
The true Italian came out of Marissa.
It
was awesome.
It couldn't have been a better ending if it had tried. And even the animated ending credits were fun, and the stinger was cool too, because there's that whole sense of family honor thing going on. And as I said, the Vulture was a bad guy, but he had a sense of honor about him as well.
Right.
Well, I have two thoughts about that one, but to go back to the Aunt May thing, again, here's Marvel trying something new, something we haven't seen. And so that's exciting. That's what's kind of fun about the whole film is.
Absolutely.
Did they overplay her sexuality a bit in this movie?
I didn't feel her sexual, I didn't feel she was sexual. I felt she was younger. She's certainly the youngest Aunt May we've got.
Well, I mean, because, there's the waiter scene where...
He gave her a free dessert or whatever.
I
think that was
the convenience store guy.
But we've had that before. We've had the Tony making remarks.
Right, but I'm just saying, that on top of the waiter, on top of the convenience store guy, it's yes, we get it. She's a hot Aunt May. Everybody's gonna comment,
Yeah, it seems a little overdone there.
It didn't bother me. I didn't even really think about it until you guys brought it up. It's just, people were kind of down for it. Okay, hot Italian woman, there you go.
Yeah.
And she's age appropriate for an aunt. And I like how they're in an apartment complex and not a nice little house, even though comic-wise he had a little house, but for being in Queens and being, his social status and monetary and everything, it made sense to be in a complex.
Yeah.
Right.
More so than a house.
Going to the Stinger, to talk briefly about that, is, yes, I feel like the Vulture's a man of integrity, or he's trying to protect his family, but, Peter did him solid saving his daughter. Peter saved himself, saved
his life,
I don't feel like it was necessarily he doesn't want to give out the information so that Peter can get killed himself or whatever comeuppance. I think he wants to do it for himself.
Right.
So
I think so. I think there's selfishness there. Yeah.
So that's what I feel like it was. I mean, there's two ways to play it, and there's more. Makes more levels for the.
Well, in the comics, it's that way where there's another guy who meets Vulture in the pen or prison or whatever, and he wants the information. Because he's like, I think I know, and there's that whole little storyline of it, because he's also wanting to get the another wing thing, the flight pack thing. There's another one, so he wants him to tell him where it is and all that. So it's kind of potential future stuff there.
Yeah. I do find it interesting that for the Vulture's origin story, it was basically the incident, the whole Battle of New York, that basically begat the technology to create the Vulture. So it's having this long-reaching effect throughout the Marvel Universe. And again, it's just, I think that's why there's not level fatigue for these films. It's just because they keep doing world building. And again, they have hiccups here and there, but overall, it's such a plausible, tightly knit world. And my personal thought is that Marvel should do a comic series based off the MCU, like they did with the Ultimate series back.
Oh, it would be wonderful. I would love that.
I like the MCU depiction of the Marvel Universe far better than what actually runs in the comics today. I do. I get so mad at what they do with the characters in the comics, and I just don't feel that's like the best version like what it used to be. This feels like the old Marvel Universe to me, but just with new twists and turns and everything else.
Well,
And I like to see.
When you're filling up weekly or monthly content,
You have to.
Yeah, it gets stretched out and weird angles played and stuff. So even if they took the MCU and put it into a comic book form, it could run the risk of becoming I'm not gonna say it's all crap because we love comics. Hello, but from it might lose some of its special, or its edge, or its how the quality of it. Because,
Well, I mean, even if you just kept it to a couple small series, obviously if you did standalone titles for all the MCU versions of characters, that might dilute the whole thing. And they can, and even with the movies, you get like a couple days out of their life, not their day to day. But if you did something like the Avengers, the Defenders, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Spider-Man, that sort of thing, kind of kept it, and even where they could intersperse with each other and have a couple Ghost Rider, Punisher cameos. I mean, really just take like the cinematic, the ABC and the Netflix series and kind of like let them play, whereas clearly they aren't doing that at this point, not really. And who knows if they will whenever Infinity War pops out next month, if they'll actually start including some of the Netflix characters and things like that. I know there's talk, yes, no, maybe, who knows, I don't know. But I'd like to see those characters kind of interact in a little bit more of a freeing thing where you aren't needing like Chris Evans or Robert Downey Jr. contracts to go keep all these versions. Just kind of make it ongoing stories.
Well, there's been some... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Speaking of contracts, what I felt was really weird is Pepper Potts appearing out of nowhere.
Yep.
Right.
Like, wow, I guess they needed to fill like one of her contracts or something like that. It just felt very tacked on, and it also didn't make sense as when we last left their relationship.
Right.
And then the whole ring going on again with
right.
Kind of like we must
that
have
could be a plot for another movie somewhere else.
Was her absence in Civil War due to like shooting scheduling conflicts, or did she just not want to?
I don't know, but in that film they intimated that they'd broken up and that it was a bad breakup.
Or that there was just some
Really
conflicts. Did
Right.
they really say that they were broken up? Because it had to have been recent because she was still in the teleprompter in Civil War, so it was like a fresh thing that just kind of happened to where...
Right.
So it could have just been
Again, somewhere off screen they may have patched up.
Well, yeah, of course, there's that. But when you have audiences that are like following from film to film to film and don't get to see that, it's a little what the.
Yeah.
So having the MCU
That's a whole other Marvel comic.
So yeah, having the MCU comics could fill in those gaps.
Yeah, but it would be like the equivalent of doing little web series things. I mean, these actors are not going to agree to a web series thing, so why not just
Is that the international
put
sign
the
for
characters?
web series?
Oh, web series.
Nice.
Because there's going to be a whole point when Phase 3 wraps up. If people are still doing this, and I think some of them will probably bow out after a certain point. And there's been, again, rumors. We don't know anything. But when they start bowing out after a certain point, who's going to fill the void? Are they going to do like what the Marvel Comics things are doing, having successors and sub-characters and everything else? And, it kind of, I don't know, as a longtime fan of characters, because comic characters essentially live forever. Actors and contracts do not. So I kind of get that, but...
Yeah.
That's a whole other thing.
For now.
For now.
Someday robots will be doing it all.
Well, considering CG and how they're making young versions of actors these days, like more and more, we might we might start seeing some long dead actors and younger versions of actors and actresses come back.
And they'll all be played by Andy Serkis.
They will.
That's right.
Everyone done in a Gollum style. It'll be amazing.
Oh, and that one gun guy.
Megatron? What guy?
No,
Shooting
what's
a Cupid?
from Guardians of the Galaxy? Sean Gunn, I think, or something.
Oh, Sean Gunn.
Oh.
Oh, the gun guy. I was like,
I know the
what?
gun guys.
Back into
Jumping
the
franchises.
lab. Um,
Well, you know.
So one of the other things talking about the future, because obviously they're going to do a Homecoming too. I guess that's prom night or whatever.
That would actually be kind of funny.
That would be funny. Prom, baby. No, but they're doing a Homecoming 2, whatever that will be called down the line. And that's within the Marvel universe. Now they're doing these whole. This is where Sony, I feel, messes up. They're going to do all these whole side spin-off movies that are going to be set outside Marvel universe that are
Venom.
based off like Black Cat and a majority of Spider-Man villains.
I think that's fine. I don't think everything has to be tied together. I think when there could be standalone stories that you just go and it's contained within that movie. I'm perfectly okay with that. I know it's weird, being that now that Spider-Man's part of the MCU now, to even think about doing an offshoot of Spider-Man, but there's money to be made there, and standalone stories.
They got to milk it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what gets them into these troubles with the first place. That's why they keep rebooting Spider-Man. It just seems like it's a really bad idea and less beneficial for the growth of the Spider-Man franchise and less opportunity. I mean, Spider-Man has probably some of the best villains, again, in my opinion, of the whole Marvel universe. I mean, he's got Venom and Mysterio and Dr. Octopus and especially Green Goblin and the messed up dynamics with that. Craven, I could go on and on and on.
Hobgoblin.
I would love a Craven movie.
The Marvel Cinematic Universe, because
Carnage.
they do great with heroes, and I think they've had some good villains, but I think they could do with more villains, just knowing that these characters exist somewhere within there. I just think it's a bad idea to have it like this whole separate side thing, and they don't exist within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, especially when they've spent like a decade world building this thing to, a credible thing where all this is happening, where heroes and villains can interact and meet, and I think it's just limiting opportunity.
Yeah.
Still, if they want to do a standalone movie, and I'm actually being serious, if they want to do a standalone movie, I could go for a Spider-Ham movie. That would be amazing if Marvel had the guts to pull it off.
Well,
they could do a
with
talking
Disney,
raccoon.
get Pixar or get the Moana team on it.
Oh, it would be so cool. Oh, that would be so cool.
If they can pull off Rocket Raccoon and make Howard the Duck less groan-worthy even in just a few cameos, if they had the guts to pull off Spider-Ham, wow, I would do mad props for that.
Now,
Right.
here is what I would love to see. I want to see. I would love them to do Spider-Woman. I mean, if they're going to play in a Spider-Man universe, there's other Spider characters. You got Spider-Man 2099. You got Spider-Gwen, which is huge right now.
Right.
Spider-Woman would be an amazing story.
To choose from.
Oh yeah, I loved Spider-Woman and her the costume where it had the living right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it was so cool. Cause I remember seeing her having the Spidey wings before Spider-Man did.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, hers were much more functional than his. I think his.
Well, his are functional now in Homecoming.
Now,
Now
yeah.
they are.
Yeah, now.
Although there's a scene, and I don't. Let me.
Originally.
Okay, really
they're
quick.
just-
Okay, did any of you get kind of like jerked when the Stanton Ferry or the ferry scene
Yeah.
when he glides in? It cuts to a
That
side
side
view
view.
shot. It looks like someone had a toy going. Woo!
That scene looks
Oh,
crap.
did they really?
That's what it looked like. It
Looked bad. I'm glad you said that because I kind of looked at it. I was like, that looks so weird. It's like someone threw like a little action figure on the boat or something like that.
Okay, so it wasn't just me. All right.
It's basically like, whoa, I'm a Lego. Yeah, it's like all right.
Yeah, that's exactly what.
Wow,
I didn't have a
I think I
Spider-Man
blinked.
figure.
I missed that one.
Yeah, it
'Cause,
was
yeah,
bad.
That was like you have this multi-million-dollar film and all this. I was like thinking to myself, man, these Spider-Man effects look really great all the way through this film. And then I see this scene, I'm like, that is the crappiest looking shot I've seen in this entire film.
Yeah, it was bad.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one who saw that.
See, I wonder if they did it on purpose. Now,
Right, it's just a little joke.
It's something I would do. I would throw it in there just to mess with people.
Interestingly enough, the team that did all the Spidey effects for the first 5 Spider-Man films were not allowed to work on this.
Really?
So
Like,
those
if you
are-
worked on it, you weren't allowed to touch it, even if...
Wow, so they were blacklisted completely, huh?
Well, I mean, like the production companies. I don't know if specific workers,
Specific
people.
people.
They wanted a
Okay.
completely
All,
fresh
everybody's
take.
employed by Marvel, Light and Touch, whatever Lucas, Industrial.
ILM.
Light.
Just light
ILM.
magic.
Yeah, so they're the ones who did most or all of the CGI and effects stuff
Mm.
for this film. But that was something that's different between the Sony and the Sony Marvel, I guess,
Yeah.
production. But I have to say, I am groaning and not having it with the Michelle as MJ.
Yes.
Yeah.
They did say she is not Mary Jane.
But they're
No.
still using MJ.
They're still
I
doing
know.
MJ as the initials, but it's Michelle
Jones.
Jabberwocky or whatever her last
I
name is.
know.
Milwaukee. Yes.
I can't.
The
I
big
can't.
crossover Monty
can't.
Python.
No,
I can't with her.
No,
Well-
I can't either.
Yeah.
you can't have Mary Jane Watson without red hair. End of story. I mean, you can do
But-
whatever you want, but you can't have that character without red hair. That's like her most defining characteristic.
So that's what I'm saying. I guess, are they just... Does Mary Jane Watson not exist in this universe?
Well, and to keep true
Not
to
at
the
this
actual
point.
comics, neither Gwen nor Mary Jane went to high school with Peter.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So they are sort of keeping it real, but with Michelle Jones being MJ, because is MJ just now just a name that doesn't mean anything? But
Right.
Who scores of Spidey fans, that MJ means something.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're
I think that was
disregarding it.
misplaced fan service.
Yeah, I just
I mean, when they have such fan
I'm hoping
service,
that's
like,
what it is. I'm hoping it's really bad displaced fan service, and that she does not become.
But how weird would it be
The
to introduce
MJ of MCU.
But yeah, you bring the real MJ in later on,
Mhm.
and it's just weird.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just... I think they just... Yeah, out of all the fan service they've done in this movie, I mean, you see the Betty Bryant reference,
yeah.
you know, that she's one of the news anchors for the school.
And even his best friend Ned is supposed to be the one of the Hobgoblins at one point.
Yeah.
You know, in the comics.
Right.
Yeah.
Who was hilarious. He was great in this film.
Oh,
Really,
yeah.
that character.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he had that that anxiety of once he found out, that excited, you know, and
But
wanting,
it was
asking
so
all the
cool.
questions
So
is like,
great. Yeah.
you know, yeah, I mean,
Asking
it's,
all the questions I would have asked if Spider-Man was
Oh,
my
yeah.
best friend.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
it.
ask away.
Sitting there wearing the hood, you know.
Where do your webs come from?
Well, you see, when a man and a woman love each other very, very much, they share a very special type of hug. That's why you feel funny inside sometimes.
You
No,
sound
anyway,
like a
PSA.
PSA, which Captain America, his little cameos throughout. I loved when Hannibal, who
Burris.
played the gym teacher, was standing on
Yeah.
the wrong side of the monitor.
Yeah.
When these,
That's
he's
why
like-
he's over here.
yeah.
Pointing it. Yep.
And he's like, I think it's a war criminal now or something, but I got to, you know, I still
gotta
have to
show
show
it
this.
anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, throwing that line in was just set, I guess, a bit in the timeline, or at least, you know, acknowledging that this is after Civil War.
And
Yeah.
that was an earlier Captain America outfit too. That was one
Yeah.
of his earlier uniforms. Like again, the incident era.
Right.
uniform.
You're right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well,
I give his like 3,000 thwips.
yep. Thwips up. Thwip.
Whips up wazoo. But yeah,
Thumbs up,
I
whips
think
up.
of all the Spider-Mans, this is the best one that they've done yet. And it for people like I can't do this again. I can't do another reboot. No, this one's actually they got it right.
Yeah.
The inclusion into the Marvel universe makes so much of a difference, and it's fun. I mean, even if it was just truly a reboot, it's a fun movie. It's
Mhm.
very lighthearted. It goes in theme with everything else the whole Marvel universe
Yeah.
has done. It's a fun light, breezy film, which especially for Spider-Man, it absolutely has to be.
Right.
Absolutely.
I mean,
So,
he's had some dark moments in comics, but
Of
you know, Claw Saga, is that it?
Yeah.
Speaking of, real quick before we close off, I love that his homemade suit was basically the Ben Reilly costume.
The Scarlet Spiders.
The
Yeah.
Scarlet Spider costume. I love that. Because I love that costume from the comics, regardless how
I
you feel
know.
about the Clone
You love
Saga.
your 90s.
But
I try not to.
Go see the film, Spider-Man.
Yes.
I mean,
Go watch it.
it's not going to hurt.
Spectacular.
Greatness.
You know,
Oh yeah.
they're going to make their money. It's already what, 150 million on Friday alone.
Well,
Yeah.
and this segment, I mean, we're already talked about spoilers, so people have already watched it. So go watch it again.
Yeah, let's get this bigger than Titanic.
Yes. Heck, let's get this bigger than Avatar.
But less sinky and less blue people.
Less blue.
Not that there's anything wrong with blue people. I'm just saying.
Unless you're Electro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I got a
that's one
problem with that
person
blue
that-
guy.
God,
I like
what
the
was
Smurfs.
thinking?
Smurfs would be awesome. I'd see a Spider-Man Smurf crossover. You get
Oh my God,
Spider-Man
yeah.
from Electric Company, so it's all thought bubbles.
I actually watched Smurfs Lost Village, and it wasn't too bad.
I heard it wasn't.
I'm gonna be watching that too.
Okay,
Well,
yeah,
it's time for the first TGL fanfic crossover. You read it here first.
Oh.
You get offered lots of crying.
I gotta
Lots
write
of
that down now. It's Smurfs and
The
what?
Smurf
Spider-Man
crossover.
crossover.
Send it in.
It's
We'll
gonna
read
have
it. We'll do a
angst,
whole
and people are
series.
just gonna cry over everything.
3 apples high and 1
So
Spider-Man.
Smurfette is Mary Jane?
We'll
That's
work it in. We've got a plot.
It's up to there. Let them
It
write.
writes
Oh.
itself.
Oh,
You
it's
know.
up to the fans. Okay, okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you,
Well,
Danny, if
really
you want to
want.
submit your fanfic,
Uh-huh.
your slash fic, however you want to write it, no judgment. We'll
If
read
you,
it.
if you want to have the Smurfs and Spider-Man crossover where they're all squirrels, today's your day.
Okay.
It's your fanfic.
I'm on it.
Lots
That's
of
what we
crying.
really, really want.
So,
But yeah,
all right,
Homecoming,
now that we've gotten into
no
that
big
whole weird
surprise.
area,
Yeah.
that's everything about Spider-Man Homecoming. Like I said, go check it out. And, from us, that's
All
It's all
good.
geek to us.
us. All right, take care.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for watching.
Yes,
Bye.
thank you very much.
Like, subscribe, comment, share it with your friends.
Two things. Send by carrier pigeon. It's great.
Hey, guys are here. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Big shout out to Jen Taylor for being our first Patreon supporter. If you too want to hear us praise your name, get access to exclusive content, and help us maintain and grow this channel, check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/TotalGeekLive.
Bumblebees.
I'm petting puppy dog butt right now. I'm scratching the puppy dog butt.